Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy almost Halloween. My name is Kelly Loughlin. I am coming to you live from Los Angeles. I am a 2016 GVSU Film and Video grad, and we are hosting one of our alumni live today about getting your first PA job in the film industry. I am also joined with a few other Grand Valley alumni today. We have Chris Randall coming to you live from Grand Rapids.
Hello.
And we also have Tre Jackson here in Atlanta. How you doing?
Doing great. Phenomenal.
Awesome. And we are also going to be hearing some responses from Jesse Routhier he is stationed in New York City. He could not join us today, but he is very eager to share some of his fellow experiences working as a production assistant in the film and television industry. It is so nice to be able to hear from our alumni all across the country. Really, we've got Grand Rapids, we've got LA, we've got Atlanta, we've got New York City. This is amazing. We've got all the kind of smorgasbord of film video options TV that we have to hear about. So I am so excited to be able to share this with everybody today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah, super exciting. So, production assistant. It's kind of the first rung on the ladder, right? That's kind of where you're going to be getting your start if you want to be working either on a film set or in television. And I mean, depending on what kind of city you're in, it seems like there's different kinds of things that they could be having you do. So I think we should just kick it off and say, what's the average day as a PA look like, you guys? Like, what is your experiences? Tre, down in Atlanta, what did they have you doing down there for work?
The Atlanta industry is obviously, I mean, I don't know who knows, but it's booming. It's been booming. It's always seems like it's expanding. It's very active. So there's a lot of opportunity. So I mean, the typical things of a PA are transportation is big. Handling people's orders is big. Really, just managing any department that needs help, like bridging the gaps, being the glue. Like doing whatever's needed, you know? So it's kind of cool because you get the experience of seeing everything from different perspectives. One day you might be in this department, helping this department, watching equipment, unloading equipment, learning about that kind of stuff, being up close with producers and directors. So it's quite an adventure. Those are some of the responsibilities that we do down here. So.
That's awesome. And Chris, you are actually working at Grand Valley, is that correct?
Yes, I'm currently teaching a class, a script writing class at Grand Valley. Okay. I graduated in 2000 and moved to LA for a year and then came back here, and I've run a production company here ever since.
Awesome. So it's been a while since you were last down in the production assistant level, I should say.
Yeah, a little bit.
What are some of the experiences that you remember having when you were first starting off in your year in LA?
It was like Tre said, you did get to experience all the positions, which I think is the great thing about starting at PA, because a lot of times people might think that there's a certain job that they want to do, and then they get to see everything and they might think, oh, you know what, I'm actually more interested in this because you got to help out in a different department than what you were thinking. But it is anything, that's what I learned, was just be ready to do anything anyone asks you to do with a smile on your face, and do it right away. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's always a good way to be.
Yeah.
I am actually an office production assistant, which is a little different from a set PA. I remember at my time in Grand Valley, a lot of the skills that we learned was for actually being an on-set PA and what it seems like to be on set. However, as an office production assistant, I get to work a little bit more in the development side. Some of my job duties include sitting at a desk all day, to be honest. For my current job, I have actually not had to be out on set, but I handle a lot of the production coordinating. I schedule meetings for development team. And so I really like being the part of watching the process of a television show being developed. And when you're going on the set, you're already ready to see these things kicked off and helping with the creating of it. But I really love the office PA aspect. And that's actually something I didn't learn a ton about at Grand Valley. So even when it comes to just that starting position of PAs, they can have you doing any number of things in set, in office, or maybe you're just out doing runs somewhere and trying to drive around in the Atlanta traffic, trying to get a truck somewhere, right? That's awesome. I want to share a little bit about some of the responses that Jesse Routhier has from his time working in New York City. He actually has worked on the show Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is an amazing thing. That is so exciting. He mentioned that he actually has done a little bit of union work, and a lot of his common duties were managing crowds and such, which I can imagine being in New York City trying to be a PA, that'd be a little different than in Grand Rapids trying to, different amount of people walking on the street that you gotta keep from walking on the set and stuff. So it seems like a lot of his was just assisting keeping the streamline of the production going, when some of our other experiences don't necessarily work up in that same way. And that's the beauty of, we've got some pictures here of Jesse working on a set in New York City. That looks like it could be LA or Grand Rapids, anywhere. That's a very familiar site. It's a great photo. So even just in your starting position of being in a PA, they could have you in any number of different positions. And because you're having different hats as a PA, it seems like you could be reporting to different people, even depending on what they have you do as that day. So we actually have a question from Dan, who wants to know, to who would a PA answer to when you're hired onto a project? Chris, do you have a response to that?
Yeah. In my experience, it's usually the assistant director is the one that kind of gives the responsibilities out, and that might flow down the line. It might be then telling you to go work with another department. But it seems like, at least in my experience, and when I was in Los Angeles, the assistant director was the one who was on the walkie that I was getting direct information from and directions from of what to go do. Yeah.
Now, Tre, do you always find yourself responding to the same kind of person when you're working on a project, or does it ever switch up?
Typically, it's the production coordinator from my experience. I did a lot of reality TV show, more than anything, reality TV show PA work. So the nature of that is different because it's a small, intimate crew, and there's like two of us PAs that like run everything. So that's what's been like for me.
Can we know any of those reality TV show names?
Oh yeah, totally, man. So I was PAing on Braxton Family Values, which is Tony Braxton's based out here in Atlanta. I know her assistant really well, and there's all the sisters are involved on that. So like 2 years with that, we would travel, which was cool. Once, because we were the two PAs that were like, we were like associated with that show. So whenever they came in town from LA, they shot in LA, shot in Atlanta, and then sometimes in Washington, DC. So we would drive the equipment, and the crew would fly, and it was like a big family. It was really cool. We went to Little Rock, Arkansas one time, and me and the guy just bonded. So that we really have a good relationship with that crew. I worked on American Idol for 1 day as a PA.
1 day.
1 day. There's a couple of 1-dayers. Project Runway for 1 day. Some food show for 1 day. Those are some of the reality shows. And then there's Home Free, a couple of the bigger reality TV shows. So that's more of a game show. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on Braxton Family Values.
So it seems like you kind of have a toss-up between projects that last just 1 day and some things that you're repeatedly brought on for weeks at a time, it sounds like. Yeah,
that's the nature of being a PA. And the cool thing is if you're good, people like you. If you do a good job, like you said, one of you guys spoke to attitude earlier, then why wouldn't they work with you again? And on that same token, when you are consistently working with someone, they always want to ask, what is it that you want to do eventually? That question is going to come up, and it's good to just be aware, pay attention, so you know what to say. I want to share really quick that one of my first PA gigs was really cool because we went to North Georgia mountains, and we're at T-Pain's house, and like hanging out with his old family, and it was just so cool. It was just so cool, man. So it could take you to some really cool places. I've been to T.I.'s house. Yeah. that was ludicrous. That was Ludacris's house. Never mind. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That sounds worth it on its own. Wow. Chris, when your experience when you're in LA, does it seem like it was kind of a toss up as well between whether you'd be on a project for one day versus an ongoing thing?
Oh yeah, and I was doing PA, and I was also getting grip work. So if it was a union shoot, it would be a PA position because I wasn't in the union. If it was grip work, it would be non-union shoots, but it would be whether I was gripping or PA, I could get a job for a day here and there. Sometimes it would be the biggest thing that I worked on in Los Angeles was 3 weeks of PA work. It was the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes shoot. So in that one was 3 weeks at Sony Pictures Studios. So it was that was the longest single job that I had as a production assistant.
That is so cool. Wow. You guys have been working with some big names already, just as your PA levels. That is so exciting to hear. Chris, so nowadays you have been in charge of hiring PAs over in Grand Rapids and stuff. What are some of the duties that you have them doing that you send them out in the world to do?
So our shoots are much smaller than a big production like Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. You know, usually we have a crew of maybe 6 to 7 people. We do a lot of documentary style things as well, or web series. So our PAs really are a big part of the crew. You know, if you have 6 people on the set, and every person is very important. So the PA is often actually doing everything from assistant camera type stuff, like doing the slate for us or that kind of thing, all the way to taking everybody's orders and going and getting lunch. You know, and then everything in between, whatever we need to do on the set. So that, and it's usually one PA on our set with us. So we definitely look for that person with that really good attitude and that personality that we can get along with, somebody who is excited to do that every day with us. So.
Oh, that's so good to hear, for sure. In my position, when I was hired for this, I actually have a hyphen in my position. I am an office production assistant and an executive assistant. So because of that, I am the personal assistant to the executive of our company, who is the CEO, who runs the reality television company that I work at. So I am, I'm getting him lunch every day. I walk his doggy, who I have to bring into the office sometimes. But then between that, I am also doing a lot of scheduling and answering phones. So there are a lot of similar receptionist duties, which I did work some non-film jobs as a receptionist and administrative assistant between moving out here to LA. So a lot of those skills came in handy. And here I thought that those would always kind of be separate from film, but I never really thought about being an office PA over a set PA. So even though I do answer to my boss, I also work with our production coordination team and our line producer very much. They will hand off to me to make phone calls and reserve hotels, or a big thing for me I've been doing lately is finding COVID testing for our crew before they go on flights. So it's a lot of the PA duties, like you guys have been mentioning, is kind of handling some other things that maybe someone higher up in the ladder doesn't have time to get to, but still those small duties are so critical to the production moving forward, and they're often just in our hands alone. So because of that, it sounds like we really need to be in our A game when it comes to being a PA and just be ready to go when we show up on set. And a big part of that is making sure that we have the right tools and the right clothing and kits and vehicles, and just be ready to be assistant more than just being a smiling face. Tre, when you're down in Atlanta, do you have like a kit of stuff that you bring with you every job, or what do you find you have to have the kind of right tools when you're on set every day? What helps you do your job?
As a PA, it's, from my experience, it's fairly minimal for requirement wise. You know, a charged phone, a way to make sure your phone can be charged, is really like the primary thing that you need. You know, usually it's a prerequisite to have a valid driver's license. But outside of that, anything else is kind of additional. I mean, I've seen, one of my guys bring a notepad, little scissors or stuff like that, gloves or different things. But as far as PAing, from my experience, you don't need. I don't usually bring any extra materials unless it's otherwise communicated.
That's interesting. Chris, have you ever found yourself needing something on set that you didn't bring with you that day? Or what have you found comes in handy to have with you when you're PAing?
Well, one of the things that I learned really early in Los Angeles for the year I was there, because I always thought it was just beautiful and sunny every day. And then we got into a production and all of a sudden it was pouring rain and I didn't have rain gear. And then on another production, we were out in the desert all night and it was freezing cold and I wasn't prepared. So being prepared for any type of weather, I think, is definitely crucial. Especially if you know you're going to be shooting outside. And as a PA, even if the production is inside, you still might be outside, locking a street down or directing traffic or something along those lines. And then the other thing that I took from gripping, I guess, too, but I just always carried it over to PA, was just having one of those little pockets things that has a Leatherman and a Sharpie and a little flashlight in it. Like those three things can come in handy so often for so many things. You'd be surprised where you can use those three items.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. I can only imagine, especially if someone's just like, oh, I need a pen. And then, oh, I'm the PA. Hi, my name is such and such. And then you can make a great in that way.
Uh-huh.
That's fantastic.
Or having a stick of gum on you too is often can help,
Is that something that you asked from your PAs, or what's something that
No, I wouldn't ask for it, but
anything of it?
Yeah, I have people ask. Actually, when I'm shooting, if I'm directing something and I can't get somewhere and I know I'm going to be interviewing someone that's coming in and we've just had lunch, I will ask for gum, and it's just something, it's one of those things that I just tried to have around when I was PAing. So when somebody asked for something, if I could just have it right with me, it'd just be one of those little things that would make them happier with me, I guess.
Have you ever asked for something specific that you have your PAs come prepped with that day? Like maybe have you ever asked them to make sure that they have all those things, or do people generally kind of know to bring a pencil or a flashlight or something with them?
I think the only thing we make sure is that they're going to be dressed properly for the weather that they're going to be dealing with. Like those other things, like Tre said, it's not requirements, It's just things that I've found handy myself. So, but we definitely make sure that they understand the weather situation, especially in Michigan, especially this time of year, letting them know if it's going to be getting cold and rainy. Just because we're inside, don't expect that you're going to be inside all day. So those kinds of things. Yeah.
That's a great point. Tre, earlier you were talking about your job had you driving a little bit to different locations, sounds like. I just want to talk briefly about requirements of driving as a PA. Have you found yourself using your personal vehicle a lot? Have you driven work vehicles, or what's kind of the different experiences you've had when it comes to driving for the PA gig that you've had?
I would say it varies on the project and the budget of the project. I've done a couple recent independent feature films, and mainly just gripping or camera, and because it's so small, I would drive to pick up something here and there. But on the reality shows, they always come. I mean, they come in town from LA, so they always have rental cars, and it can happen, but usually it's on a smaller project or show. The more intimate one, lower budget, is when I drive. I did have one PA gig where we solely delivered a big U-Haul from Atlanta to Chicago. Like, I think, was it overnight? It was just like straight. I've done that a couple times. I've went from like Atlanta to, we dropped off something in it was in New Orleans. And then, no, it was further than that. It was like Baton Rouge, and then drove back just as an equipment PA, like just a deliver PA, So it was just a road trip adventure. Yeah, I've done that.
Did they ask you ahead of time if you had experience driving a truck like that, or did they just hand you the keys and say, hey, be in so and so at such time?
I think she did ask. Something like that. But the funny thing is, I did the Chicago one twice, and the first time the guy I brought destroyed the U-Haul, ripped a big hole in it when he was turned. He did some fast weird turn, and we got to Chicago, and they didn't call him back, but they called me back. So, but yeah, that happened. So.
And Chris, over in Grand Rapids, do you ever have PAs drive a box truck or load up equipment, or is this something that you feel comfortable designating PA to do, or what's some of your experience with PAs and vehicles?
We don't typically ask a PA to do that. In Grand Rapids, and I'm sure a lot of people at Grand Valley know Loughlin Light and Grip, and we work with Dave Loughlin and that crew all the time. So if there's truck moving that needs to be done, we typically will ask them to carry something for us. We do appreciate when a PA has like a hatchback vehicle or an SUV that can carry things in a cargo space. But that's also nothing that we require. But when a PA says, "Oh, I can throw all the crafty in the back of my car and take it to the next location," that's great. We love to hear that.
Yeah, that echoes an experience that Jesse in New York City wrote about. Is having a good vehicle, even in New York City, is important to have for him as a PA. Hatchback is something I keep hearing about as well. My roommate, who works as a set dresser, she has a hatchback car, and she specifically chose that vehicle because she knew she'd be having to do a lot of loading. I bought a new car for myself before I moved to LA, and that wasn't something I took into consideration. But I also knew that in my job, I wouldn't be doing a lot of, moving larger objects like maybe someone in a grip PA position or moving a cargo van would be doing. I personally have had a little bit of driving to do in rental vehicles and kind of we call them box trucks. It's the smaller kind of vans, but they're not like a huge kind of semi truck like Tre, you mentioned, kind of driving a bit. I would mostly be doing runs to like LAX and picking up gear and crew members and stuff like that, taking it to the airport. So I have had to use my personal vehicle and some company vehicles for something, but in my office PA position, it didn't come up a ton. But I'm glad that they asked you back after that truck incident, Tre. I'm sorry for your coworker, but I'm glad that they brought you back.
I'm a great driver. They make sure you're comfortable. They always make sure you're comfortable before they have you drive.
For sure. So I'm curious to ask, so it sounds like you've had a lot of repeat askbacks for your position. How did you land that first job that obviously led to you getting the same one over and over when they would come back for more filming? How did you find your first positions there in LA or in Atlanta?
I can't, for the Braxton Family Values, I can't remember how someone knew my name from another place, position, show, I believe, but one of my first PA gigs, the official ones, was from staffmeup.com, and I was just navigating, trying to figure my way, trying to figure the site out and stuff. And so, that was in 2015, and it was really exciting because I was figuring out how to navigate the platform, how to get seen, or what to use. And so, Staff Me Up, it worked out, and that was such a great gig. You just reminded me, one of my PA gigs, it was actually the most I got. I think it was 300 a day for, I was on, so commercials PAs.
Commercials.
Pay more.
PA.
Yeah. And that crew was the scenery, the crew, everything was so beautiful about that shoot, and comfortable. I remember the coordinator was just so kind and just such a great environment. And even at the end of towards the end of the shoot, he was like, "Do you want to be in the commercial? Do you want to? We need like a partner." This woman was like, "We're supposed to hold hands," and you're like, "You want to be her partner? Extra 200." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be her partner." So we held hands, and I was her husband for a couple minutes. So
wow.
So I made 500 that day on my gig. So surprises can happen.
And that was through Staff Me Up, you said. Did you
that one? I don't think it was through Staff Me Up, but my first one I got, when we drove to the Northridge Mountains, T-Pain's house, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, it's from
awesome. Yeah,
Staff Me
so
Up.
Staff Me Up is definitely one I've personally used as well. Chris, when you do when you came out here for the Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, was website hiring a thing yet? It was
Not,
word of mouth. Tell me about your experience from then.
there was, I mean, the getting our name out through different web services, I can't even remember what they were, was almost, we didn't use it at all, almost. I mean, we were just starting to kind of discover that. So this is way back in 2000, you know, like 1999, 2000. So the way that when I moved to Los Angeles, I started to get my name out there was I don't remember how I found productions that were just looking for free help. Yeah, and that's what I just started doing. The first month or two I spent working for no money to meet people and get my name out with people. So then when they would work on a production that was paid, that's how I started to get those jobs. They started to call me up, and a lot of times they would call me up the night before they needed me the next day, and I just kind of had to be ready to go. And I would do that, and that's how I started getting those jobs. And that's kind of even how the Planet of the Apes one came along. They just, when they were moving to the Sony lot, they just decided they needed one more PA while they were there. And one of my friends was working on it already, and so he called me, "Can you be here tomorrow?" I was like, "Yep." So that's how I'll be there tomorrow and for the next 3 weeks. You know, you just kind of it can be really disruptive to your life, but you know that has to be your life, I guess, to start. You know, that has to be how you get in there. So
Now, when you hire your PAs these days, do you still go by word of mouth, or do you ever put postings online looking for people?
we have used so teaching at Grand Valley, I've put the word out through Grand Valley channels to find PAs. I love to get production assistants from Grand Valley, students that want to get on our sets. I often work with the same assistant director. His name's Nate Robertson, and if I'm working with him as an assistant director, I usually refer to him to find the production assistants, or let him kind of pull in who he wants to work with. Because again, in my experience, that's the chain of command. It kind of goes, anything that needs to be done by the production assistant starts from Nate and gets kind of delivered down the line. So
Is that Nate?
Choose the people that he likes to work with, that he feels comfortable with. And then I also try to introduce, like I said, Grand Valley students once in a while. I'm like, "Hey, can we work this person in there too?" And start getting them in with us. So
Hey, Chris, is that Nate with the glasses? Is tall?
No, I don't. No,
okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's
I
a
know
lot of
Nate.
Nates in Grand Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 3 different Nates as well.
Okay.
So it sounds like Staff Me Up is the thing that we keep coming back to. I found the current position I'm at right now through staffmeup.com. And so did Jesse Routhier when he's working over in New York City. So when I was coming out here and I barely had any connections, the 2 big websites I kept hearing was, 1, Staff Me Up, and then 2, entertainmentcareers.net. And we've got that down in the lower thirds for anybody watching who wants to go check out the websites and even just take a look at what a PA posting looks like. Some of the things we brought up were about skills they look for and locations and times and such like that. A lot of these job postings, it'll say, you know, where they want you to meet at, for how long it'll be, if you should have your own vehicle or not. And that was actually really helpful in helping me find out, you know, what kind of position I even wanted or was qualified for. So when I got my current position, yeah, I found on Staff Me Up, I applied, and I was called the next day, basically. And then here I am over a year from now.
I will say, if I can real quick, even in Grand Rapids, I have a lot of friends who are working freelance, and they are also using Staff Me Up, and they get hired by a lot of production companies coming in from LA or New York that are working in Grand Rapids to work here, or Detroit or Chicago. So even though we don't use it for our company to find production assistants in Grand Rapids ourselves, I know a lot of my friends put themselves out on that to get work around here as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And we're so lucky because, you know, we can see the listing of the job already laid out and know what we have to come to. And it's not just, you know, getting a call from a friend the night before saying, "Hey, can you be here for such and such?" It helps us choose a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, you know, people can phrase jobs in a way that might be sound a little better than the job ends up being. I certainly saw some online postings that seemed a little, whoa, sketchy. I don't know if this is right for me. So in your guys' job search, have you seen any postings that have come across as shady, or how do you tell if a job posting you either see online or get recommended from a friend is going to be like, oh, I don't want to be involved with that? Tre, have you ever seen something that made you sketch out and be like, I don't know if I want to be involved in that?
Not before I got there. I've never really been able to. I've always had pretty good gigs, and I guess I'm referred from good people. The only one that comes to mind is this one show that just had a lot of politics going on, where whether it was like too many PAs, budget, drama, but not quite, not like any real indicators. I have been really fortunate to have really legitimate gigs, yeah, for the most part, from referrals. And then I haven't used Staff Me Up a lot, because once I got going, once you get involved, when people know you, you just get referred by, you just continue to get referred. That's like a timeless, reliable source for me.
That's good to know. Chris, I imagine back in the day it would have been harder to screen what's going to be a bad job, because it's not like you can see it in writing ahead of time, Do you have any horror stories of things you got involved with?
I mean, you can get on a production and start to tell pretty quickly if it's going to be poorly managed, which is what makes it bad for the production assistant. So if they didn't do proper pre-production, or you show up to the set and you see that they don't have things organized and ready to go, that's the first time that I would really get a sense, this job might not be so good. The only thing that I think you can question is when they are offering work for no pay. It's 50-50. Sometimes you want to take that job, though, because like I said, that might be the thing that makes the connection for you for the future. It also could be horrible, so it's like, you really gotta, you gotta weigh how much of an opportunity you actually think it is. Maybe look into the production company or the people who are doing it, see if they have anything out there that proves that they know what they're doing. Ask other people. In this town, you can ask other people if they've ever worked with somebody. And most of the time you'll find someone that has and can kind of tell you how they feel about the production. So
yeah,
I would say be wary of, I've never experienced it, but some of the low budget productions, basically asking for a lot more than the PA is supposed to be doing. So it's like, we would need you to handle files, DIT, so run camera, and it's like PA for 125. It's like, okay. Yeah. So there's that. I don't think that's very common, but I know it exists. Trying to get more.
Yeah. I've seen productions that are asking for a PA to basically be an assistant director, and they're phrasing it like it's a PA job. What
was it about the job that let you know that they were asking too much, about like how the duties blended over, like assistant
director? They're asking the PA to come in a week before production and help with doing scheduling and other maybe budgeting and that kind of stuff. This is a little more than a PA is what you're asking for here. So
a PA can literally show up that day, know nothing, and just thrive. Like, it's you can just have nothing. You just get your order and you do it, and it's great if you're proactive, but there's no kind of all that stuff.
Yeah, Jesse gave me some comments about when he was working in New York City. It seems like he's worked on both union and non-union jobs, so he is able to, be able to discriminate a bit more between what kind of jobs he took. I did work for free a little bit when I first came out here, just to be able to have something local on my resume, which ended up coming in handy, because then they can see, I might have a phone number with an Indiana area code still, but here's all these projects I've worked on. And it was a blend of paid and unpaid. I worked unpaid on a indie film, no name. I don't even know if they're ever getting it made, but I emailed my contact that night and I was like, hey, you know, going forward, if you want me to return, then I'm going to be asking for, you know, a certain amount of day rate. Out here in Los Angeles, we actually have a minimum wage. And for the PAs, I think the minimum wage is about $150 a day. And then your pay increases depending on, you know, the duties and the job position. But it seems like the bare minimum that you get in LA is $150 for one day. Tre, are you comfortable sharing what like an entry-level Atlanta PA rate is, or are you already so much above that that you came in with a higher starting rate than 150?
No, 150 is the standard. That is, you know, even when I first got started on Staff Me Up, that was what I saw as a standard. And so that's where I've based things from. Like I said, commercials always pay more. So I think the commercials I have worked on, they'll ask me my day rate as a PA. That was a little different. And indie project, they might try to, you know, do 125. If they're really struggling, 100. But, you know, any reality show, 150 is, I wouldn't go into 150 typically unless I some circumstance.
Is there anything extra that would, like, oh, maybe if you brought a vehicle, they'll throw in an extra $100 or something, or if you bring your laptop? Have you ever seen something like that where they're like, oh, well, it's a PA, but, you know, here's why we're going to pay you a little bit more to do such and such? Just
gas stipends. If you're driving a little bit, using your vehicle, or you know, you get per diem. I mean, you get per diem if you're in another city. So $50 just for being in the city for food or whatever you may need traveling. But yeah, no, other than that, overtime, you know, after
Overtime
12, time and a half. Yeah.
Chris, back in your experiences, were things $150 a day back then, or?
It was, yeah, I would say it was 125 maybe, you know, it wasn't too much less. But when I was working in Los Angeles, there was about that standard base rate. And that base rate is the same here now too. Commercial productions, even in Michigan, are higher, you know, it can be 200, 225, all the way up to 300. And then your lower indie, you know, low budget indie movies made around Grand Rapids that have a budget, you might be looking at a low end of $50 to $75 a day that you'd have to agree with. But for the most part, commercial work that we do around here is around 150 a day for a production assistant.
Now, only answer to the degree you're comfortable with, but does it seem like, you know, you could fully survive off of steady PA work at that rate, or did you have to supplement it with something else, or like is 150 seem fair?
I think it did. When I was doing it, I thought it'd be great if I could get 6 days a week at $150 a day. You know, I was excited for that. So I don't know if in Los Angeles now, if you could, I don't know if you could survive on that as a day rate. But I'd say in Grand Rapids, you probably could. You might want something else as well. That would assume that you're, you know, getting PA work 5 to 6 days a week every week, you know, which usually isn't the case. So you would have to have something else going on somewhere.
I would say, yeah. I mean, for me, $150 in 2015-16 was single individual. Just paying. I mean, I live in Atlanta, so it's not like it's New York or anything. So you could definitely find. Yeah, you can, you know, as an individual, it worked for me. It really did. And it was an entry-level position. It was more than what I'd get at minimum wage or something like that. So yeah, you know, lunch is always almost, yeah. I mean, it's very, very rare that I have to pay for lunch when I go to, it's very rare, incredibly rare. So lunch is covered, and yeah.
Awesome. Free food. That's all.
Hey, free food and crafty.
Yes, crafty is always a big benefit, free snacks and everything like that. So transitioning over to, it sounds like we're all either taking the next step in our careers or about to be, or so. Chris, you've managed to go all the way to that. You're hiring PAs now, and that's got to be an awesome power shift. So when you are now hiring PAs and you have the experience in mind of what it is like to be one starting out, what do you look for in a PA? And then what is like just something we can do to make you stand out and let you know, hey, like I'm a good person. I'm ready to come into this rock. I got a good attitude. How can you make that shine just through a resume or just through something online even?
So again, it's usually a recommendation from somebody that knows the person, or me having met them, or Nate, my assistant director, having met them or worked with them on something else. So it is hard to just get that through in a resume. But if I look at a resume, say from a film student, and they are trying to just start into it, but they show work that I could maybe go look at something that is online on YouTube or something, and they list their credit properly. They don't call themselves something that they didn't do on a project. That's something that we can look for. I think though, once you get to the set is where you really stand out, and it's with the attitude, and then it's with the ability to know when to jump and move really fast and when to kind of stand back and not get in the way. That's kind of a skill that you have to learn on production as well.
Yes.
Wow, that's great. Tre, when you were first starting off and like maybe crafting your Staff Me Up profile or working on your resume or something, did you ever get any feedback about what made you get chosen, or something that you knew was helpful and suddenly made a difference? Like, oh, you're suddenly getting responses to your posting now, or what's something to do that you just made yourself stand out in a way that maybe you couldn't meet that person in person and, sell yourself in person?
Yeah. In regards to Staff Me Up, one thing I did was that I found was advantageous, putting my references in the cover letter, so that you minimize any extra energy or time back and forth versus them saying, oh, I like your profile, do you have any references? And you saying, you replied in a few hours, oh yeah, these are my references. They have all the information they need, so they can make a decision quicker, faster, by just having everything available. That was something I used. Other than that, I don't think so. What was your question? I'll make sure I feel it. I feel like I had something else to say.
Oh, just ways that you can stand out through resume or digital profile alone when you don't have the luxury of, doing word of mouth or in person or having any connections already existing to that job. Have you found that's ever happened to you?
Yeah, that's. I did take I forgot about this. With Linda Burns, she's very notable in Atlanta, or was. She had a workshop on how to PA, how to get in the film industry, how to PA, and part of that was resume. And so I did take on that structure that she noted. So yeah, I actually went through like a little workshop. I forgot about that a while back, and so I used that format. Or it's a certain format, just laying out your positions in a aesthetically pleasing way, in a clear way, and yeah, a little bit of a formula there, So
yeah, for sure. Resume crafting. Yeah, that's cool that you attended a workshop. That's super helpful. Just to be able to get feedback on it directly. So like I said, I found my job through Staff Me Up. And when I was interviewed, it was actually interviewed by our production coordinator who was in charge of hiring. And through Staff Me Up, they kind of have you do not a mini cover letter, but just like a 70 character pitch about yourself for the position, just so they can read a quick blurb. And because I saw that the job posting was in the same city I lived in and required all the skills that I had just been working for several years, I was able to put in like 70 characters or less. I live 4 minutes away. I have a vehicle. I've already been doing this for 3 years before I moved out to LA. So even though I didn't have, a connection to LA itself or anybody who worked at my current position here, my coworker was able to see, oh, well, she lives nearby, she has a vehicle, and just the way that she was able to sell herself in 70 characters, it seems like she's pretty competent. So that was a great benefit of Staff Me Up Alone, having that feature of being able to pitch yourself in just a couple words. And then also I could tell that was what my coworker was looking for, is just make our lives easier, show that you come as a pre-packaged competent person. And then of course they were able to see that blurb and then see my cover letter and then see my resume, which up at the top I listed my most recent ones, and I was able to list those unpaid or kind of poorly paid PA positions that are local, and then transition to my Michigan credits, the job I worked in Indiana, and that was able to make a difference for them. Chris, when you are hiring your PAs and such, do you ever even take a look at their resumes, or is it just like entirely through word of mouth? Have you seen any cool points that keep coming up on the better resumes?
No, I have looked at resumes, and when I was just thinking about it when I said, listing credits. I guess if somebody sends us a resume and all their credits are, I was a director on everything, or director of photography, then we say, well, okay, you might work. But if somebody actually has some credits in there, even if they're working for free, that are something along the lines of production assistant or even assistant director, those are the things that would stand out to us as somebody who knows something about that position uniquely, or specifically. So we have looked at resumes, and I do actually have a file of resumes when some students or people send them to me on my computer. So if we do get in a position where we're, looking for some extra help or some extra PA work on a production, I do go to that file and just kind of go back through it. And I've started to create a list of students that I've worked with from Grand Valley over the years. And eventually PAs usually kind of move on to other positions. So that's a position that keeps kind of filtering through, whereas most of the other positions on our crew have been the same people for years, because we get comfortable with working with the same people. So I would say that resumes do work.
That's awesome. That's good to know. Yeah. Because it's good to know that the resumes do work and are helpful, because you're concerned if you move to a new area, you may not have that network, but it's good to show that you can work from the ground up these days through these online profiles and resumes, and you definitely have a chance even if you don't know anybody.
I was going to say, really quickly, I just thought about specifying sometimes, like I've been a talent PA. So just if you're doing talent work, like I'm mainly working with talent, then that may help, something like that as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, we've talked so much about getting that first job, but staying at that first job is equally important. We have a question asking about if there's a job where they load too much on you, or things you're not comfortable doing, or you can just tell like, wow, this is a lot. What do you do in a way that doesn't, give you a bad name with everybody? Or how do you just handle that situation when you're just overwhelmed with your PA duties?
I've had one of the first PA jobs I had, I ended up being basically an assistant camera person / grip. And so what I did was, eventually after a week of being asked to do those things, I asked for a bump up in my pay and a different credit as a grip. And they agreed to it, because it was a low budget thing, but they didn't really have anyone else to go to at the time. I think I was just in a good position to do that. And they realized that they were asking me to do more. So that's the one time I personally dealt with that. Also on that same production, they asked me to do one or two things that I didn't feel comfortable, I felt was dangerous, and I just said no. And they didn't do it. They didn't have me do it. So I don't know if I was lucky with that particular production, that I felt like I guess it was kind of to a point where I felt like, look, I'm going to say this, and if they fire me, that's just fine. Either they're going to pay me more and give me a different credit, or they'll let me go. So I feel like you don't have a lot of leverage as the production assistant on a crew, because there are a lot of people willing to do the job. But you definitely should stick up for yourself, especially if you feel unsafe. And I think that's become a much bigger thing with production, even within the last 10 years. If you feel unsafe, let them know and stick up for yourself, and don't do anything that's going to, you feel like is going to risk yourself or harm to yourself or other people.
Yeah. Trey, it sounds like, I mean, you drove a truck from Atlanta to Chicago. It seems like you've pretty much tackled everything they've thrown at you. Have you ever had to say no for safety reasons, or you could just tell like this is beyond what one person can do?
Like I said, I've worked with really just great people, quality people, and the person who got us the one job when we drove equipment to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on the way back, I think we just said that we needed like a hotel for the night. We needed time to rest and not go all the way. And I mean, it's for our safety of the equipment. And so they agreed. Like I would say, communication is one of the most valuable skills in just professionalism. And so it's very important that you communicate what it is that you need, communicate what needs to be communicated so that the best outcome can be found between you and whoever you're working with, just like, yeah.
Yeah. It works out for everybody when the PA isn't overloaded with things and things fall through.
Cool.
So we have a kind of a fun note that we could start wrapping up on. It's talking about strange PA stories or any other fun things you've had to do in that position. Me personally, I was working as an art production assistant, and I was getting some set dressing and stuff for this Comedy Central proof of concept shooting. It was only be shooting one time, maybe turn into a show. But they also wanted me to do warm up as talent. So they mic'd me up and pushed me on set within 30 seconds to say, hey, you're just the filler for the talent we're going to have here. And they were kind of throwing questions at me as they would the person they were interviewing. And I have kind of a comedy background, so I was able to like riff a little bit and make everybody laugh. And that was a fun moment. But I mean, we're always doing weird things in this industry. Do you guys have any strange stories on things you've been a part of?
I don't. It was kind of an exciting thing, I guess, but and I don't totally want to name drop or anything, but it came from the Planet of the Apes set because all the main actors were in this really extensive ape makeup that was, you could see their expressions through it, their mouths and everything would move, but it took hours for them to put on. And specifically, I remember one morning being sent to get Starbucks for Tim Roth, who was in the makeup. And when I went in his trailer to give it to him, I had to help him put a straw in it and put the straw in his mouth so that he wouldn't mess his makeup up. That was, I'll never forget that. That was fun.
You were an animal handler.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh. Trey, what they have you doing? Something weird?
I can't think of any good stories, like really.
You were at T.I.'s house. You're at T-Pain's house. Come on.
I know. I mean, nothing like really memorable. I mean,
just normal.
Not like anything they asked, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm pretty like I can do it. I can do whatever for the most part. I mean,
skill to have.
Yeah. Nothing that applies to that question. I've had stories, but there's nothing like in that world. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So just looking to wrap up and get everything in summary today, what are just some closing things that you can say on a GV student who's just got their mind on making their first break into the world? What's your closing parts of wisdom that you've got for somebody who's just so anxious about making sure that this all works out and all pays off after studying for 4 years at Grand Valley?
I think that it's mostly, once you're out there into the world, it's mostly your effort and what you're willing to put into it that's going to give you back success, which starts usually at the PA position. So the attitude and the effort and the willingness to do what needs to be done and kind of learning your part in the whole production, it's all about the attitude and the effort and your willingness to really put forth a lot of effort to get out there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I would say, self-awareness is really key. Understanding what it is that your strengths are, what you bring. So if you are a comedic person, then just know that and bring that. If you are a very analytical, organized person, then bring that. And like have that align with your goals and where you want to go, what do you want to do. So I like this one PA I work with, and I just know I don't even try to fight this. Like, he is a better PA than me because his energy, his personality is very much like, what do you need? Anything? Like, you got it? And he just has that. Like, I'm a little more chill. I'm not gonna be as like, I'm not gonna jump as fast as you're gonna jump. You know what I'm saying? And I just stuff like that. Just have self-awareness, and like what's for you will be brought to you in environments and positions, and explore, be open. But yeah, that's what I would say.
You know, I kept hearing the same thing when I was at school at Grand Valley. They're like, oh, the attitude is most important, just being a team player and everything like that. But the thing is, that is genuinely it, though. That is what is so true, just about being mentally present and just being there and just having that body language and everything, that someone can just look around, scan their eyes, someone higher up than you, and like, okay, I just need someone to go run and grab something. And when they see that you're mentally engaged, you're there, you're not on your phone or looking off in la la land, like they can tell, like, you're in it to win, and I'm going to keep you around. And that is what makes the difference. I have been on sets where I'm not the only PA, and then they're off on their phone, or they're always in crafty or hiding in the bathroom. And it's just not a good look. And I have such a happy moment. Our producer she walked in, she said, I like you. And she didn't even hire me. And well, and originally hire me. So it's just so true that attitude and engagement and awareness and self-awareness, it truly is the best thing you can bring to the table. And then the rest of your skills and your resume will follow.
Yes. So I hear it sounds like commitment, like just really be committed to being great to be with, to work with.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today, all across the country, living that Laker for a lifetime spirit. For everyone tuning in, next month we are going to be doing an Alumni Live episode talking about the film and video major for prospective students. They can get excited and get ready to be a Laker for a lifetime and find out everything that going to Grand Valley can bring to the table for crafting the rest of your career. And I love being a Laker. I just got my little Grand Valley Gator mask that you use to cover up for that. So I am very proudly repping that Grand Valley life for sure. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Truly. I know we're living in crazy COVID times, but it's always good to connect and reach out to any current students out there. So are you guys comfortable with any students reaching out to Suzanne, Zach to get your contact information and asking you directly and just following up further on a personal level? Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome.
Could I ask one final question? Just like, and it's okay if we can like end it and maybe like clue this in later. Sure. Just know where you and Chris, how your positions as a PA have set you up for, where you want to go, where you are. I just like to know that. I think that might be helpful if we have time for that.
Yeah, for sure. My PA job has just shown me, everyone I can see above me that I work with every day, and I can see what the future is in this job. And Chris is a sitting professor at Grand Valley, so it seems like you've kind of gone in all different kinds of directions, it seems. So
PAing, especially around here in the Grand Rapids area when I came back from Los Angeles, introduced me to a lot of the people that I'm still working with today. As I've moved up to, write and direct and produce stuff. We found our crew, found people that we got along with and worked well with. So
awesome. Okay,
sweet.
Well, thank you so much again, you guys. And thank you everyone at home for your amazing questions. I hope this makes you more comfortable in your future as a Laker for a lifetime. No matter where in the country or the world you end up, you've got the education behind you, and you've got your alumni have your back, and we're willing to help you out any way you can. So thank you, everyone.